Welcome to the Astro Psyche. This is your weekly astrology forecast for May 20th through the 26th. And this week is about claiming your wisdom with the full moon in Sagittarius and Jupiter moving into the sign of Gemini. We actually have quite a few things going on this week that involve these two pivotal pieces of astrology. My name is Shawna McGrath. I'm a psychotherapist and astrologer, and I'm really excited to be able to share the astrology of this week with you from a psychological perspective. So let's talk about all of the things that are happening this week. So before we get into the full moon and Jupiter and even the sun is changing signs, we're moving into Gemini season. Before all of that, we have this aspect that has been building that will culminate, that will be exact this week. And so that is Venus making a conjunction to Jupiter in Taurus. So Venus and Jupiter, from our perspective, are at the same point in the zodiac, in the sky. And this has been building over the last couple of weeks. We've been really feeling into this Venus-Jupiter, especially Venus-Jupiter-Uranus energy, and it is at exactness this particular week. And so this is a continuation or a culmination around healing, creativity, opportunities, chance circumstances opening up for us, opportunities coming in for us. Venus and Jupiter are two of the planets that are known to be the most benefic or the most helpful, all things considered equal. Venus is about relationships. It speaks to our social capacity and our social nature as creatures. And then Jupiter speaks to our desire to grow and expand and to learn and to Jupiter also speaks to our need to have some sort of set of belief system or systems or morals or like inner principles. And I think that Jupiter is also very much related to our sense of inner wisdom as well, what we know to be true, what we feel to be right, what we feel to be just. And so this combination coming together, there is this this symphony, this harmony of things being able to work together, especially relationally, and things being able to open up and grow, expand Jupiter around things like relationships. But I think that this can also, on a more inner psychological level, this can be having a renewal or a healing or even an expansion around our sense of self-worth, self-esteem, how we feel valuable, how we feel important, how we feel beautiful, how we relate to our money, our skills, and the things that we have to offer and to be in the world. And so all of that is tied up into Venusian issues as well. So this happens early in the week, and I think it's a really lovely transit, and I think that it can be very easy to get focused on or fixated even on some of the more challenging astrology that is out there that happens from time to time. And so I think that it's important that we really feel into the good feeling astrology when it does happen, and to know that that this is living in us and through us right now, that this is happening even when it doesn't feel like it's happening. Sometimes we're too in the weeds of it to notice it. And so I think this week especially to notice where there is something that is helpful or beautiful or enjoyable in your life. And I also, as I'm saying that, I don't want to discount that sometimes it is it feels impossible to find any goodness in life. Sometimes there are hard times where we can't see that. And I want you to know that there is always something. And sometimes just because we can't see it doesn't mean that it is not there. And my hope for you is that there is something that you can connect into, some sense of ease or beauty or pleasure, even if it's something that's very mundane and very minor. Now, this week, what happens, so this happens in Taurus, right? So Venus makes its conjunction to Jupiter in Taurus, and then Venus will move into the sign of Gemini. So Venus moves into Gemini on Thursday, the 23rd of May. And the sun will also move into Gemini. So they're both sort of hopping over together. The sun moves into Gemini on Monday, May 20th. Happy birthday to all of my Gemini people. Wishing you a lovely solar return season. So the sun will be in Gemini from Monday, the 20th of May until June 20th. So we're having this shift into Gemini season, the sun being the symbol of our consciousness, what we know, what we are aware of, what we know to be true, what we are focused on, what we can see, what we can perceive, what is perceptible to us at any given time. Our consciousness, our conscious awareness, and yeah, I would even say our consciousness is finite. So we can only be aware of so many things at any one time. And the sun is a reflection of this. It's kind of like this spotlight of our awareness, and it moves through the chart. And even in your natal chart, there is a sense of perception being focused on a particular area and way of being via the house that your sun is located in, the sign and the aspects that it's making. This is a symbol of where your consciousness is focused on in this particular lifetime. And then when we have the sun moving around, it's sort of this this variable awareness. And in this particular season, when the sun is in the sign of Gemini, there's a focus on so actually I want to back up for a second. So yes, sun is consciousness. It's the part psychologically that is the ego, which is the part of self that says, this is me, this is who I am, this is who you are. And there's an ability to differentiate. It is also a symbol of our vitality and our energy, not at a muscular level, but the animation energy, that part of you that is like excited about something, that gets invigorated or not throughout the course of life. The sun is also a symbol of leadership roles, paternal or father type figures in our lives. It's a symbol of being seen, being visible. It's a symbol of our social image, prestige, power, influence, ambition, and even generosity. So the sun is the focus on where we're kind of like moving into things, and there's something that we have to give and there's something that we have to receive. So in this case, Gemini, the sign, is a mutable sign, which basically means double-bodied. So mutable means both, basically, because it's a transitional sign. So it's kind of like this symbol of a person having one foot in each world or in two different worlds. Gemini is also an air sign, and so air itself is very flexible and malleable. And so the nature of Gemini is sort of paradoxical. There's a lot of movement to it. There's a lot of like moving from thing to thing and not settling into one thing. So it's very different from Taurus in that way, whereas Taurus is a fixed earth sign. It's really about rooting down into something and committing to things. And Gemini is about trying out all of the things and being flexible and being curious. And I think also at a core level, Gemini is about asking questions, thinking about things, seeking new info, looking for new experiences and learning through having new experiences, and that it's sort of essential for Gemini to have a smattering of things, that it's really essential to be able to um, move through and sample and have a lot of variety. And that may be variety within the context of one particular area of focus, but it's really important to have this sense of variability or changeability. And then, once you have more info and you have more experiences and variety, then you can decide how you want to move forward. And so this is a strong theme that is happening over the next month, with the sun being there, and then also with Venus being in this place as well, because Venus is a symbol of our social connections, relationships, aesthetics, beauty, harmony, attractiveness, things that we are attracted to or repulsed by, the things that invoke that in us. And so Venus is in Gemini from Thursday, May 23rd, and it will be there until June 17th. So just about a month or so. And so there's a lot of focus here around exchange of ideas and communication and connections and social exchange, social connection. Now, so I think this week in particular, we might kind of experience this this change where it's kind of like maybe possibly there's a little more energy that happens. I think it really depends on your current life situation and your chart, of course. But moving from Taurus to Gemini, there's sort of this lighter sort of energy, and there's this quickness to it. There's a curiosity to it. And so I encourage you to embrace that, especially if there's something that you want more of in your life that is in alignment with Gemini. So if you're craving more social connection, if there's something in your life that you're trying to figure out, it's like, yes, Gemini is supportive of asking lots of questions and seeking resources and asking for advice, all of these kinds of things. Now, the other piece of this equation is that when the Sun and Venus move into Gemini, they will make a trine to Pluto in Aquarius. So a trine is a harmonious, easy, flowing, and sort of subtle kind of aspect. And we know that they're making this aspect because they're in the same element. So Gemini is air, Aquarius is air also. And so they're making this they're like on the same page. They're like, yes, we know what is happening here together. And so there's also this subtle opportunity for either seeing or experiencing something that was maybe hidden or shadowy, or something that kind of like was sort of like tucked just outside of your awareness for a period of time. And again, this is subtle, so it's not something that's going to be experienced as necessarily jarring usually. And I think that we can tap into this further if we're really looking and paying attention for maybe something that that has been hidden or that we're unsure about. And this again is where it's like we're like asking questions, seeking new information, and seeking new experiences. And I think that there's also this element of, at the same time, when you're exploring and asking questions and looking for answers, you're also, ideally, my hope for you at least, is that you are connecting into your own wisdom as well. Because every time that you get some new info in that Gemini kind of way, you get to question that and not take it as face value. So whatever internal response you have to what someone is telling you or to an external situation, that internal response, that is info for you. That is maybe, I would argue, the most valuable info that you can get. Like when you hear someone say something to you, how does that sit with you? What does that bring up for you? Do you resonate with that? Do you disagree? Do you feel a mixture of things? Do you feel complicated stuff going on? And that response is going to give you more info on what you actually think and feel, and your wisdom arises from that place, from the inside out. And so it's sort of paradoxical in this way, in that Gemini really emphasizes and craves asking, and it really emphasizes and craves like dialoguing and talking through something. But then at the end of the day, the true wisdom comes from the internal experience via that dialogue. Okay, so moving on from that, the other part of what's happening this week, a big moment this week, is we have a full moon in the sign of Sagittarius. This is happening on Thursday, the 23rd of May at 6:53 a.m. Pacific time. And it's happening at 2 degrees of Sagittarius. And so I really like this full moon because, I will tell you why, because it's so early in Sagittarius that it's not impacted by Saturn. So Saturn is currently in Pisces. That is making a challenging square aspect to both Sagittarius and Gemini, for that matter, actually. But Saturn's, it's like in the mid to late degrees of Pisces. It's at 18 degrees of Pisces right now. And so with the full moon in Sag being at 2 degrees, it's really far away. I mean, it's still kind of it's still in the ballpark, but we get sort of a very true to its form full moon in Sagittarius. We really get to feel the Sagittarius vibe here, so to speak. And so full moons, of course, are a sense of culmination, of things being brought to light, of celebration and honoring what has been happening. And let's see, within this particular cycle, it's a culmination of what has been happening since the new moon in Taurus on May 7th. So we're still within that new moon lunar cycle that began on the 7th of May. And so I think, yeah, it might be interesting to look at what's happening for you, how things are culminating. I think that sometimes it doesn't always have to necessarily neatly tie into the lunar cycle. Sometimes it's simply a feeling of there's a lot of activity going on. Maybe you have a lot of social plans, or maybe you're feeling a lot of emotions and thoughts and inner experiences coming up. Maybe you're having a lot of dreams. And so this is kind of like the light of the moon, the light of the unconscious, is sort of getting kicked up and stirred up a little bit. And so I think it can be helpful to sort of notice, give yourself some grace, give yourself some gentle, loving care, and to notice what is coming up and what that means for you. I think another piece of this particular full moon is that there is a general sense of things coming to light around new information, philosophical ideas, belief systems, etc., because it's in the sign of Sagittarius. And then Jupiter, the ruler of this moon, is actually changing signs this week, and Jupiter changes signs about once a year. So it's very synchronistic, and I think very interesting that we're having a full moon in Jupiter's sign, and then Jupiter is making a meaningful change during this particular full moon. So the full moon happens while Jupiter is at 29 degrees of Taurus. So it's still there at the very end of Taurus. And then Jupiter moves into the sign of Gemini. So Jupiter will be in Gemini from Saturday, May 25th through June of 2025. So through June of next year. And I think the biggest thing to look at within this is, especially with the full moon and then especially with Jupiter. So with the full moon, where is Sagittarius in your birth chart? What house does Sagittarius rule for you? And what are some of the basic keywords, indicators that that house represents? There is a culmination or a fullness, or maybe even possibly a celebration around this area of life for you. And then I think we also want to look at that where Gemini is in your birth chart. And so it's very interesting, actually, that it's not just that Jupiter is changing signs, but it's that Jupiter is moving into the sign that is opposite this particular full moon. So we have the Gemini Sagittarius axis being highlighted. And these signs, Jupiter and Sagittarius, are about information, they're about the exchange of ideas, and they're about wisdom, knowing, discussion. And I think it's also kind of like how we decide that we know the things that we know. Gemini is about seeking. Gemini is about engaging with other people to figure something out. Whereas Sagittarius is about reflection and study and like more selective counsel. And so both of these signs, this axis, is really desiring to have more information, to have more understanding, and where Gemini is going about it more in a rapid fire social exchange kind of way, usually. Sagittarius is going about it in a more slow and steady and contemplative sort of way. And I think in life, we need both of these energies at different times. And it's, again, like everything else, it's going to depend on your temperament and your own birth chart, which energy feels most supportive and life-giving to you, and which maybe feels a little more uncomfortable. Now, okay, I digress. So I think Jupiter moving into Gemini, where is Gemini in your birth chart? What house is that? And what does that house symbolize? And I would really encourage you to, especially if this is, let's say you have Gemini ruling your 12th house or your 8th house, and you're like, oh, Shawna, this is going to be so bad. And I want to like just really pause that whole downward spiral of fear, which I think is very normal, and it happens to all of us, myself included. No matter what house it is, every single house has helpful indicators or helpful indicators and things that we like, and then every single house in the birth chart has indicators that are inherently challenging, not because they are bad, but because life is challenging and because our cultural context is set up so that certain experiences, in this case 12th house and 8th house experiences, are experienced as more challenging. And so for example, like the 8th house is a symbol of things being secret and private, and there's also a symbol of death, both literal and metaphorical, and the birth, death, rebirth process being connected to the 8th house. The 8th house is also connected with psychology and how when we understand the human mind, that helps us to understand ourselves and to have a sense of relieving of the anxiety that we may feel when we're picking up on something and we don't fully understand what it is that's happening. So there's helpful things and then challenging things in this house as well. So I I say that because I think that sometimes it can be a little scary when there's something big that's happening and we look it up and we find an interpretation that is slanted in the negative. If you read an interpretation that is slanted in the negative, I encourage you to look for a broader spectrum. So can you find some things that either are more helpful descriptors, and or can you find something that describes your experience of life? And so yes, okay, so I don't want to get too far on a tangent there. So what I am getting at here, though, is that Jupiter is the planet of luck, synchronicity, things expanding and growing and widening, new opportunities. Jupiter is also a symbol of helpful resources, and particularly uh, people who are supportive and uplifting, and people who are generous with you, who are aligned with you. Um, so this energy moving into the sign of Gemini, wherever that is in your chart, that is growing and expanding and providing a certain sense of uh, luck and synchronicity in that area of your life. Um, Jupiter is also connected with our spirituality, our belief system, our cosmology, the way that we make sense of the world, the way that we make meaning of the world. Um, it's also connected with morals and justice and law, social activism, exploration, long distance travel, prosperity, philanthropy, and generosity, and even rituals and healing and other helpful resources. So I think that we can look at this from also a psychological perspective of Jupiter being a symbol of growth and development, and that there is additional development that is happening as it moves through the chart, as it moves through the signs. I think that Jupiter in Gemini, there is this craving for creativity, for novelty, for exploring and moving around. That is definitely the theme this week, right? And I think even into the whole next month, with the Sun and Venus there and this full moon. And then, yes, Jupiter is here in this place for the whole next 12 months. So this is the beginning of a year of exploring Jupiter expanding a different place in your life. I will also say that Jupiter in Gemini can sometimes be challenging in that there can sometimes feel like there's a lack of direction or focus, because Jupiter is about wanting to do more and be more and explore. It's this outward and inclusive kind of energy. Like Jupiter wants to include everything. And sometimes that can feel like too much. Sometimes it can feel kind of like there is a lack of focus. Sometimes it can, when I was thinking about this, it kind of feels like it could go into in Tarot, the Seven of Cups, where there's a figure looking at 7 different cups, and all of the cups have different things in them. And they're kind of like, oh, I don't know. Like they need to like choose maybe a couple, but they can't really quite decide, and it's difficult to decide. So there can kind of be that feeling to this too. And I think this speaks to even Jupiter, a benefic, having its inherent challenges depending on the situation. And so I think you know yourself and what your tendencies are. And so if you tend towards having a lot going on at any one time, and if maybe you tend towards having a hard time focusing, where it feels like it's like it is challenging for you, or where it creates challenges, then this is like, okay, we know that maybe possibly there will be a need to intentionally focus your energy especially over this next year. So we're talking about Jupiter going from a fixed sign, which is Taurus, which is fixed is focused. It's very particular. It's fixed. It's like, okay, this is where I'm set. This is where I'm going. And then Gemini is like taking off the bumpers, or taking off the guides, so to speak. And so I would just, I don't know, see how you feel and see what feels good to you. Again, you probably have a sense of your tendencies. And I think that when we're talking about mutable energy, like Gemini, like Sagittarius, like Virgo, like Pisces, mutable energy does need variability. And so I think that it needs variability and change, but it can also be, whether it's a transit or something in your chart, there can also be this sense of kind of things getting too, like feeling unstable, like there's too much change or too many variables at any one time. And so I think that it can be helpful to maybe focus on a couple of things at a time. And maybe that's one thing, maybe that's 3 things, maybe that's 5 things. I don't know. You tell me. But that seems to kind of be like a good sweet spot, especially again, if you're a person that already has a lot of mutable energy, or I would even say like a lot of cardinal energy, and then we're moving into this mutable sort of vibe over the next month and over the next year. Okay. So I wonder how that lands with you. I wonder how you're feeling. I'm going to shuffle the tarot cards and pull 3 cards for you. So yeah, let's see. What else? Did I want to say anything else about this? So the themes this week are definitely around exchanging ideas, information, social exchange, social engagements, discovering new things. I think there can also be a sense of changing directions or introducing new info that modifies your current path forward. So maybe there is some new data, some new info, might be understanding things in a new way that sort of modifies how you're moving forward with a particular situation, or maybe it's, your overarching life path. Okay, so I'm gonna settle myself here, and then I invite you to do the same, to find a place of inner collectedness. So whether you're finding a place of movement that feels pleasing to you, or a place of stillness, and then further collecting your focus, your perception into one thing, whether that is an inner sense of the body, maybe at the heart center, maybe at the feet, or maybe it feels most easeful to focus on a sound or a sensation, maybe the temperature of the air. And from here, we'll pull some cards. Okay, 2 2s here, which is so funny because that's very mutable. So first card is the 2 of Pentacles. Yeah. This this figure in the card sort of looks like Ariel almost, because it has like clamshell, like almost like a clamshell swimsuit over the dress. It's really cute. Okay, so 2 of Pentacles to me usually is about decisions or indecision, or balancing things. It's usually there's kind of this, gosh, I'm even thinking in a lot of uh, a lot of times in therapy, we will talk about like this polarity of like, is it this, like, I feel this way, but then I also feel this way, and those two cannot meet, or there's a situation where it feels like there are things that are conflicting. And so there's sort of like this possible indecision or balancing, and it might involve something that feels like there's a polarity of the situation involved. In this particular card, the figure is actually sitting on a clamshell and they're sort of just like looking at the two pentacles, and the two pentacles are hovering above what looks like a book. And so what this tells me is that maybe you're like contemplating some options. The pentacles are very much about the material world. It can be about career or finance, or just like the structure of our lives in general, the more tangible part of our lives, the external world. Could be commitments as well. So it's kind of like maybe possibly you are contemplating between something or making a decision or something like this. I did pull this card reversed, so this to me means that there is maybe some extra, an extra dose of indecision about the thing. Okay, so we're going to come back to that in a moment. The second card is the Two of Cups. So Two of Pentacles and then Two of Cups. Cups are about relationships and emotions. And typically the Two of Cups is about two people coming together, about partnerships, relationships, connections. This can sometimes symbolize the event of a new connection or relationship. Sometimes it can symbolize the healing of a relationship that has been existing. And in this particular card, it's actually really sweet. It looks like they're either painting or they're like doing some sort of witchy brew. It could be either way. But it looks like they both have little paintbrushes. Oh my gosh, actually, maybe they're doing each other's makeup. That is possible also. I was thinking maybe they were watercoloring. So it looks like one person is doing the other person's makeup, and there's this like bubbling witchy brew in front of them also. And so that makes me think of the alchemical nature of relationships, that relationships tend to be alchemical, in that each person is affected by the other person, and that there's actually this I'm thinking of synastry in astrology actually now too, where there's this kind of interplay between people, and that each relationship is so beautiful and unique because each unique individual person brings out something in the other person. And so this is a beautiful card that is supportive around the cohesive of relationships, whether that is cultivating new relationships and new connections or deepening into existing relationships. And I'm not quite sure how that ties in with the Two of Pentacles, but I don't know, maybe there's like could be a decision around relationships or relationships. I think that also the way that I'm feeling this right now in this moment is sometimes the Two of Pentacles can be just simply a level of insecurity or anxiety, or sort of like not quite feeling rooted or comfortable, and then that affects how it is that we connect with others. Like in the Two of Cups card, they're also just like sitting down, and there is this grounded rootedness. There's this ease with which they are sitting with each other. Now, the final card is the Page of Wands. And so pages in the tarot are typically messengers. They deliver messages. So actually this whole spread is very Gemini now that I'm thinking about it, because Mercury rules Gemini. Mercury is the messenger. So Page of Wands is about new information or new insights coming to you, and particularly around topics that are involving the wands, which are passion, creativity, energy, vitality, and this like passionate, creative, spontaneous way of being, that sort of like fire kind of energy. And okay, this is what I'm feeling in here. Okay, so in the Two of Cups, there's that little bubbling brew, the witchy brew that's happening there. And this is kind of like a symbol of there is something that is cooking, there is something that is alchemically happening in your relationship. And then when there is this connection, when there is a certain level of reciprocity, they're doing each other's makeup, there's a certain level of connection and seeing and being seen and amplifying the other person's beauty, that when that happens, that actually allows you to have access to more of yourself, that there's access to more of your inner wisdom, of your vitality. There's even more, I don't know, creativity and that sense of that inner spark that is enlivening. And so I think this is really beautiful and supportive. And the current scenario of what's like why these cards, right? This is what we ask sometimes when we pull tarot or we have a dream. It's like, why this particular message at this particular time? There is something here that maybe involves anxiety or indecision, or possibly, this is just hitting me right now, maybe you feel like you can't quite focus on things because maybe you're like, I can't even focus on my relationships now because I'm dealing with like figuring out my life and keeping like juggling all of the things. And so I think that's a part of this, is like how to manage this, how to manage your life so that you can have supportive and uplifting relationships. And I wonder if maybe, possibly, connecting with people is a part of the equation to deal with that. I don't know. You know your life and what's happening for you and what your resources are. I will say also that we got here the Two of Cups, not like in contrast to, like the 10 of Cups or the 10 of Pentacles or the 3 of Cups. Like this card, the Two of Cups, is about connection one-on-one, or in a more where it's like connecting with someone at a personal level versus like a group energy or group vibe. So there's something here about being seen, reflected, and having someone amplify you in a more one-on-one kind of way that maybe possibly helps with some of this anxiety or indecision, and that really brings you alive and then connects you to your power. All right. Beautiful reading for you. I'm very excited for you. I hope that this was helpful. I always love hearing from you and how these resonate with you. Thank you so much for reaching out or commenting, or even just quietly enjoying in your own time and way. My name is Shawna McGrath. I'm a psychotherapist and astrologer, and I offer depth-oriented psychotherapy where I include astrology in that process. It is my pleasure to make these videos for you, and if you are interested in learning more about me and my work, you can find me on my website, theastropsyche.com. I'm wishing you a wonderful week, sending you lots of love, and I'll see you soon. Bye.